Please pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be pleasing to you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Today is our Back to School Blessing Sunday, and it is the fourth in the sermon series. Katie Lancaster and I are preaching on the spiritual language of trees. Along our canopied path through Scripture, we have explored some of the arboreal metaphors found in creation, in the Psalms, and in the prophets. 2 weeks ago, I preached about the cedars of Lebanon, sturdy, ancient trees often compared to mighty empires. Today, we will hear about God's empire, but it will be compared to a shrubby mustard plant in Jesus' familiar parable. Now, when we tell parables in the godly play style, we begin like this. Parables are old. They are precious gifts given to us before we are born, before our parents are born, even before our grandparents and great-grandparents are born. Parables can be hard to enter. Sometimes they are a closed door, but that's okay. We can come back again and again, and one day they will open for us. Once, there was a man who said such amazing things and did such wonderful things that people began to follow him. And as they followed him, they heard about a kingdom. But this kingdom was not like any place they had ever been or ever visited. And the ruler of this kingdom, the ruler of this kingdom had no army. The ruler of this kingdom had no riches. This kingdom was not like any place they knew. So the people that followed him had to ask, what is the kingdom of heaven like? And one time, Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest of the shrubs and becomes a tree so that the birds of the air can come and make nests in its branches. Thanks be to God for God's holy word. Now, like most parables, these 55 words from Matthew 13 plant more questions than answers. We wonder, what could the seed and the tree really be? Where is this place? And who is the farmer, and why did he plant a mustard seed in his field? Just how tall can a mustard plant grow? Turns out 9 feet, in case you were wondering. Jesus often answered the crowd's questions in this way. In fact, in Matthew's gospel, it says he did not say anything to them without using a parable. Today, during these beginning days of school, when we think about learning, we think about remembering a lot of facts and knowledge. But Jesus' way of using parables suggests that drawing near to God is more about an invitation to wonder and mystery than it is about memorizing a bunch of stuff and information and dogma. But there is, however, one fact about the mustard plant that is important to know. Mustard plants are weedy, like buckthorn or kudzu. They spread everywhere and are very hard to get rid of. I wonder why Jesus chose to compare God's kingdom to such a pervasive and pesky plant. Sometimes Greta Connor and I tell parables side by side during Godly Play because when you compare them side by side, interesting new insights can arise. Jesus told parables side by side too. In the 13th chapter of Matthew, the parable of the mustard seed is paired with the parable of the yeast or the leaven. And these two are sandwiched in the middle of 7 total parables told in rapid succession. The parable of the leaven or the yeast is just half as long as the mustard seed, 26 words that go like this. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough. In both parables, something unexpected, weeds and fungus, grows something good and abundant. In each, God's glory emerges from hidden places. In one parable, Jesus is like someone who plants a seed outdoors. In the other, Jesus is like a woman baking bread in the kitchen. Side by side, these parables show what maybe the wilderness confirmands found, that God is in every nook and cranny, every corner and crevice of our lives. This week, I heard some questions about heaven in the news. I wonder if any of you were asked about the kingdom of heaven. It's tricky to talk about. How do we describe a place that is everywhere and nowhere, now and not yet, unlike any place that we've ever been to, any place that we've ever traveled, and embodied in a man born in a barn 2,000 years ago? There are no spots to be earned in heaven, no grades or minimum GPA to gain admission. There are no tickets to be purchased. God's grace is the only sure route I know of to this mysterious place. Perhaps the best we can do if someone asks us about the kingdom of heaven is to be ready with a story, or if you want to be like Jesus, 7 stories in Matthew 13. Using that model, today I have 4 more stories about trees to sit side by side with the 2 parables, and to make 7, there is a story about the first hymn found in your worship notes. So 7 stories, but I have 4 more to tell just now. Each one begins with a question. Could the kingdom of heaven be like an artist who made a vibrant and playful forest from trash? The Future Forest public art installation, once displayed in Mexico City, was imagined by Danish artist Thomas Dambo. Now, you may know Dambo's work from the trolls that were on display at the Morton Arboretum a few years ago. Dambo fans will be excited to learn that there is a new troll on his troll map, this one in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, which is just an hour and 15 minutes from here. That new troll stands 25 feet tall, and her name is Mama Rosa. She is made of reclaimed wood, and she holds a bouquet of recycled street lamps. The poem beside her ends, I wonder how these flowers grow. The artist creates all of his art from junk. Before the trolls in the Arboretum, he created the Future Forest, which weighed 3 tons, and by my research, is the largest plastic forest ever created. It was made of bottle caps and frisbees and plastic colanders, every kind of plastic that you can imagine. And when it was put together, it became a menagerie of upcycled plants and animals, including a 15-foot tall carnivorous bush. To create it, Dambo needed help, so he enlisted the pepenadores, I hope my Spanish is good there, the rubbish collectors who comb through Mexico's streets and landfills, gathering recyclables to make their living. Dambo's art made visible the pepenadores' often invisible work. Through his art, Dambo hopes to promote recycling and change people's perception of trash from something gross into something important and full of potential. Story number 2. Could the kingdom of heaven be like 2 young men who put on rock climbing gear and set out into the California wilderness to find the tallest redwood tree? In 2006, Chris Atkins and Michael Taylor discovered the 3 tallest recorded trees in the world: Hyperion, Helios, and Icarus. These coastal redwoods are ancient giants as much as 1,500 years old, and Hyperion stands at 380 feet tall, which is way taller than the Statue of Liberty, even including the pedestal. In 1990, these 2 explorers and their exclusive Tall Trees Club began climbing redwoods. Atkins and Taylor helped to find 28 of the 36 known redwoods taller than 360 feet. And there are only 4 trees known that are taller than 370 feet. They found all 4. Miraculously, no one knew about these tallest trees until decades later. Hyperion, Icarus, and Helios were just a short distance away from the clear-cutters' saws before they were saved by the expansion of Redwood National Park. So if you would like an end-of-summer reading suggestion, May I offer The Wild Trees by Richard Preston. It's full of the climbing adventures of Atkins Taylor and their colleagues, but also you will learn about the Tall Trees Club discovery of a vertical Eden, which someone described as covered with mosses and lichens, spotted salamanders, hanging gardens of ferns, and thickets of huckleberry bushes, all growing out of massive trunk systems that have created and fused flying buttresses. The branches of these coastal redwoods shelter a scientific treasure of animal and plant life that remained hidden until these explorers braved their canopies. Or could the kingdom of heaven be like the little prince who tended his tiny planet by pulling the baobab seedlings? You may remember that the home of Antoine Saint-Exupéry's Little Prince was an asteroid small enough to see 44 sunsets in one day if you just moved your chair a couple inches every hour. In this beloved novella, the baobab represents negative things that can quickly take over. The pilot narrates the story this way. Indeed, I learned that on the planet where the little prince lived, as on all planets, there were good plants and bad plants. And in consequence, there were good seeds from good plants and bad seeds from bad plants. But seeds are invisible. They sleep deep in the heart of the earth's darkness until someone among them is seized with a desire to awaken. And this little seed will stretch itself and begin, timidly at first, to push a charming little sprig inoffensively up toward the sun. If it is only the sprout of a radish or the sprig of a rose bush, one would let it grow wherever that plant might wish. But when it is a bad plant, one must destroy it as soon as possible, the very first instant that one recognizes it. Baobabs, the little prince knew, it would break his planet apart, which is why he diligently pulled them every morning. However, the largest real-life baobab plant on planet Earth is a good seed planted in a good place about 800 years ago in South Africa. It is named the Sagol Big Tree and boasts a base circumference of 108 feet, or about a diameter of about 30 feet. I think it would just about fit in this sanctuary this way, maybe. It's huge. Known as the tree of life, the baobab is essential to the savanna ecosystem, providing water and shelter for a variety of birds, animals, and insects. The fruit and leaves provide a vital source of nutrition for humans. Here's the fourth and last story. Could the kingdom of heaven be like a girl named Lena who found a sapling on the street and planted it in her room? One of my favorite picture books is The Tree That Grew to the Moon, and it goes something like this. One sizzling summer day, Lena found a baby tree uprooted and lying limp on the sidewalk. So carefully she picked it up and brought it home, and she put it in the shower to try and revive it a little bit, and then she planted it in a bag of dirt in her room. "Maybe you shouldn't plant it there," said her mother. "Why not?" said Lena. "Because the roots could wiggle down and grow into the apartment below, and the branches could grow up into the ceiling, and it would be a jungle," said the mother. Well, Lena imagined what she could do with a tree that large. She could put in a swing and go zooming up to the ceiling and then leap off onto her bed. She could build a tree house for all her friends to come and stay in, and when the branches grew through the window and the creatures came in to live in them, she could take care of all of them. Her mother thought that sounded a bit like chaos. She said, "If the tree crunches through the ceiling and up to the moon, then there'd be a hole for snow." Lena said, "I'll build an igloo." But her mother said, "Eventually the police will gallop in here on their horses and say it's against building code to have a tree growing out of your roof." So Lena decided instead to plant the tree outside in the space by the sidewalk. She thought, "It will be nice and cool underneath my tree, and we will play in the shade, and the air will be clean, the old people will laugh, and the babies will stop crying. My tree will be covered in beautiful flowers and all kinds of fruit for us to eat. The mayor will be so happy he will have a party for the whole city. Everyone will love my tree. So Mother and Lena took very good care of the baby tree. They watered it, fed it, read to it, and played it music to help it grow. So, friends, for our back to school blessing, we are going to make one more tree together using the parable of the mustard seed and your birds that you have in your bulletins. The parable begins like this. Once there was someone who said such wonderful things and did such amazing things that people followed him. And as they followed him, they heard about a kingdom, but it was not like the kingdom they lived in or any place they had ever visited. The ruler of this kingdom did not have any riches or an army. The people following him had to ask him, "What is the kingdom of heaven like?" One time, when they asked, he said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field." A little seed planted right here. It is the smallest of the seeds, but when it has grown and grown and grown and grown. All right. If you're in the pews, grab a branch. When it is grown, it is the greatest of shrubs, and it becomes a tree. I see this tree becoming. It's a great, great tree. When it has grown, becomes a tree so that the birds of the air can come and make nests in its branches. Great job, my friends. Look at this tree. All right, if you have your birds ready, you are now all part of our mustard tree. So our back to school blessing has a response. So I'm going to ask a question, and if it's you, say, "Here I am." And then together we will all say, "You are sheltered in God's love." So let's try this. Where are the children, the parents, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles, and the friends? Here I am. You are sheltered in God's love. Where are the teachers, the students, the administrators, the staff, the coaches, and neighbors? Here I am. You are sheltered in God's love. Where are the excited, the anxious, the sad, and the joyful? Here I am. You are sheltered in God's love. Where are those who have more questions and answers, and those who have more answers than questions? Here I am. You are sheltered in God's love. Where are those for whom things are easy, and for whom things are hard, and those for whom it is just okay? Here I am. You are sheltered in God's love. Where are those who have too many activities, or not enough activities, or a just right schedule? Here I am. You are sheltered in God's love. Where are the empty nests, the expecting nests, the messy nests, the full nests, and the nests in transition? Here I am. You are sheltered in God's love. Where are those who need a friend? Here I am. You are sheltered in God's love. Who are those, or where are those, who will look for God in all of the nooks and crannies, indoors and outdoors, in school and at home? Here I am. You are sheltered in God's love. Thank you. As you leave today, we will have tree stickers for you. I want you to put those tree stickers on your backpacks or laptops or water bottles, someplace where you can be reminded that you are sheltered in God's love all year long and always.